Hi, everybody. Welcome to Discover College Soccer. Today, I'm lucky enough to be joined by Coach Craig Jones at George Washington University in DC. Welcome, Coach.
Thanks for having me, Matt. Appreciate it.
Yeah, thanks for being here. Coach and I go way back when I think you were still an assistant under Mr. Lidsta back in
Right.
the day
Yeah.
when we first met, traipsing around DC. So, uh, you've done a great job at GW for almost a dozen years now, right? I mean, it's crazy to think it's been that long. But
Yeah.
but anyway, let's first start talking about the recruiting side of things. It's what I would call the showcase season right now, right? So, are you guys wrapped up with your 23 class and looking at 24s? Are you still doing some stuff? What's it look like for you guys right now?
Yeah, we're still trying to close out 23s. I think we've been impacted a little bit. Obviously some of our guys, everybody got that COVID year. I think one, it's added a lot of difficulties and challenges. You know, we had guys we thought were coming back and now going to try a new experience somewhere else. We had a lot, this transfer portal. I think we're really seeing the impact the transfer portal's had. I think basketball were probably dealing with this maybe 2 years ago. This year for me, it's really kind of hit home, kind of some of the challenges and then some of the challenges that come with that. So we're still trying to close out, our 23 class. We've started working on our 24 class, but we still got some spots and some holes that we want to fill. So you're right, we're on the road, both here domestically, a lot of the showcase stuff going on now. We've done some international trips. We look under every rock, you know what I mean, to find guys, and there's no one solution for us. It's not MLS next, it's not just ECNL, it's not just the cat, whatever it is, and I think sometimes people think they're playing in a certain league or wherever you kind of is. That's where all it's we don't work that way. It's where we can find good plays and get a chance to expose ourselves to look at as many plays as we can for kind of in that amount of time. Then that's what we're going to do. And we've had guys coming from a lot of different avenues. Olympic Development Program coming in, MLS next guys, ECNL guys. What I mean, we've kind of got across the board. So anytime we can be there, we're out, whether it's me or my assistants. Hopefully we hope in the next couple of weeks that 23 class will be closed, but maybe gone a little bit later than we wanted. But yeah, it's still a work in progress, but we've already started 24. So we're clashing a little bit now with some of that stuff. So we want to close one out and move on to the next.
Absolutely. And you touched on a lot of different things that I hear questions on all the time. And it was great to hear, the alphabet soup really doesn't matter. You guys are just looking for the best players. And then folks are like, okay, well, a lot of D1 rosters are so heavy international these days. Are they not finding enough domestic kids? So is there any rhyme or reason for you in terms of the split? I mean, one of the things that's interesting about your roster is GW draws from all over the country. You're not just a regional roster, but then you look at yours and you got a myriad of states represented, but also countries. So what kind of comes into your thinking when it's domestic versus international and that sort of thing?
Yeah, I think we've always had a blend here of internet. I mean, I played at GW, which is what 20 something years ago, and we had a bunch of internationals. You know what I mean? We were probably back then it wasn't as common. But I just think because of GW, I think, like you said, you know, we have everyone from 50 states and District of Columbia, 130 countries, you know what I mean, of students who are here. So we do have I don't know what it is, 10%, 11% of our undergraduate population is international. So it draws players. One, it still draws players to the school that we don't know about yet and will go and recruit. But also I think the international option, as you're dead right. I think even more so in Division 1, you're seeing a huge influx of international players. I'll go back to what I said earlier. If we can fill a spot with a guy from Arlington right down our doorstep or DC, then we'll fill it with that spot. Sometimes we can't do that. So to get an international player, you know what I mean, who can, then that's kind of the route. I also think a lot of more you know, of our international students, certainly some of the countries that we worked with, there's a lot more opportunities now for them to work with some of these kind of recruiting companies to learn more about the, you know, the American college system, if you like, you know, get ahead of, you know, the eligibility center and things like that. So they're putting on some events that, you know, certainly wasn't available to me when I was recruiting, or even maybe even 10 years ago. There's a lot of different companies now that are kind of pushing that ticket of, you know, you're a good soccer player, you can keep playing soccer and you're going to get an education, which is a little bit different to a lot of the places that these players are in. So we've kind of always been a little bit international, I think, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So we always have some of those, you know, I guess networks from alumni who moved back home, from guys who are here like myself, you know what I mean? But again, like I said, if we're looking for the best player for the best spot, and, you know, and whether we can make that work, you know, financially to bring those guys in.
Yeah. And you mentioned the transfer portal, which is obviously a big topic these days for a lot of coaches. Is that s- I guess combined with the COVID year, and maybe you're losing some kids that you thought you were keeping or whatever. So does it make sense to then look in the transfer portal because maybe that player was a junior, so it makes sense to replace him with a junior? Or I guess what is the thought process when you're looking at the transfer portal as opposed to recruiting, you know, a freshman?
I think one of the thing, again, when we go in there, you know, you're probably getting someone that has played college soccer, so they all already have some experience playing Division 1 or whatever it was. Now, how much they've played then determines, you know what I mean, the level of that kind of player. So I think for us, you know, knowing we can go in some of the players we played against this, you know, whether it's last year or the year before, so we know them, we might like them. Could be, and this is the bizarre, it's even guys in our conference are in there. You know what I mean? You're like, man, he'd go, you know what I mean? He'd do well for us.
Yeah.
So you know, you might need a forward, you might, you know, that's, so we look at some guys, and, you know, for us, again, it's okay. Then it's like anything, you still got to do your due diligence, right? It's okay. Yeah, you know, we got a kid coming from, I'll just use our neighbors here, you know, AU, wherever you,
Mhm.
but when you look at his stats, you know, he didn't play, or he played one game. Academically, you know what I mean? We got to figure out, is that academic piece still going to work? Because, you know, we know that the academic profile is fairly high here at GW, or is high at GW. So we got to make sure that works. So I just think it's for me, it's almost given, you know, it's given players a way out. You know what I
Mhm.
mean? And it's kind of, if I want to, you know, one thing I want my teams to do is, you know, when things are hard, you got to dig in. You got to show some determination, some grit, and, you know, you got to fight your way out of things sometimes. Whether that's games, whether that's training sessions, whether that's, you know, some challenges you're experiencing in life. And, you know, I think the transfer portal has allowed guys to just go in. And I think the issue that we're having is people think the pastures are always a little bit greener, but they don't know how it works either. So when they go in, they think it's, you know, all these people are going to come to them. The reality is you've got to go still, then you put yourself back in the shop window. You've got to go out and market yourself as well, you know what I mean, and hope that someone picks you up. So, you know, I'm not a fan of it. I'll be totally honest with you on that. Do we look in it? Certainly. Have we talked to players in this? Certainly. Have we got players in the past from it? Yeah, probably. But again, it's you still have to do, you know, like I said, what I call the due diligence on that person. It's not
Sure.
just the soccer piece, the academics, you know, okay, why is he leaving? You know what I mean? Do you know the coach? Can you have an honest conversation, and, you know, the character of that person? So it's just added another, you know what I mean? Another thing that it's crazy. My assistants probably spent like 2 days. The first day, you know, that window opened, I think November 15th. And, you know, you went from maybe 200 to like 800 people in there. So getting through all those guys, it's definitely an option. Do you know what I mean? That we look at. But there's the pros and cons to every avenue you go down.
Sure.
It's just, you know, finding a balance that's going to work for you as a program.
Yeah. Well, I think you may mention this before, but camps, do you guys do ID camps? Is that a big part of your recruiting to help decide and whittle down the numbers?
It is actually. So we've been fortunate enough that I want to, every year we've picked up someone that we hadn't seen before, whether it's, totally unseen. Now we're able to watch video, you know what I mean? And a lot of these kids who do sign up, and we've added them to the roster, and some have been true walk, full walk-ons, some have received some athletic aid. So I think for us, in terms of the ID camps, and we, it could be 2 day, it could be 1 day. We've varied the process because we're a little bit, well, we are a lot smaller in terms of our numbers. It's me and my staff. So one, I think for the players, we use it as a recruiting tool. One, for the players, they get to work with the staff. They might not like the way I do things. So there you go. There's your answer. You're not going to GW. You know what I mean? It gets them on campus. You know what I mean? So pre, post, in between the breaks, they get a chance to tour the campus. So it gets them on campus, gets them working with the staff. You can see the facility. And I think, like I said, we've just been fortunate because the numbers we keep small. We're able to work with these guys on a little bit more personal level. So for them, they're sussing us out. For us, we're kind of figuring those out. Some guys we just had one in January, which was probably one of our biggest ones, actually, around 50 kids. There was 23s on there who, unfortunately, we had to say, look, at this stage, we're not going to offer you a spot. There was 23s that we didn't really know too much about. We're scrambling now to come and watch them play in the next 2 weeks. So we've been very lucky, fortunate. We definitely use it as a tool. We've definitely been fortunate. We've picked players up from our camps. And like I said, it just we encourage players to do it just because, one, like I said, working with staff, you're on campus, you get a feel for campus facilities. And for us, if we haven't seen you live, it could be the first opportunity we do. So we just did the one in January. We have one in February, 26, I think. We probably do another one in the spring, and then we normally do maybe 1 or 2 in the summer. So probably like 5 maybe windows where, those college or sort of high school, 9th through college, have opportunities to showcase themselves and for us to kind of take a look at them on campus.
Okay. Well, in terms of GW itself, it's obviously, I'm very familiar, having lived in DC for a long enough time, but there's probably some folks out there who aren't familiar with GW, and you've got the great perspective as a former player there and longtime coach. So besides what I'm going to see on the website, give me the awesome things that you love about GW and that are really a draw to the school.
I mean, location, right? I mean, for me, as much as you can, you say it, when you're able to, I don't run these routes as much as I used to, but, being able to, go out for a run and get that kind of fitness in aerobic stuff, and you're running in the tidal basin, or you're running around the reflecting pool, or you're going on a big one down to the Capitol, you know what I mean? That doesn't happen every day. And that's an experience that, I think is truly unique to the DC location. For me, driving in from Arlington, sometimes I'll come over maybe Memorial Bridge. Preseason is great because the traffic's not high for that early session. You got the sunrise, behind the Lincoln. I'm like, that's another only at GW moment. So I think for me, the location is one of our big sellers. I think that's something that's really unique. I think one of the things that people maybe assume, GW, obviously politics, you know what I mean? We got a lot of government, but there's so many other avenues that our players are involved in, from nonprofits to private, research. Obviously, GW is a huge research school. The NIH is on the doorstep. We got the World Bank a block from campus. So it really does cover, we got 10 different schools. Could be wrong, don't quote me on that. So probably around, 80, 90 different majors. So it's not, a lot of people come to GW for that, the political side and the media side and that route. And we offer some great programs, but there's a lot more to what we offer in terms of the academic opportunities and DC in general, like I said, from research to nonprofits to private to media, you know what I mean, to politics. So I think it's just, there's something here for everyone. And when I talk about GW in the schools, I'm then talking about even exploring the city. You know, you jump on a capital bike rental, or I try not to encourage our guys to get on the scooters because they're a little dangerous, but you know what, you jump on there, you can spin around the city for an hour, and you know, it's just so much to do. So I think the city itself has something for everybody. We're fortunate in terms of our location. Like I said, we're so close to some of the major monuments. We actually, you know, we have a metro stop pretty much on campus, so guys can jump on, go down to Chinatown, watch a game, you know, watch a hockey game, watch a basketball game, go to another part of the city, explore that area. So I think for me, the location, like I said, is obviously a big sell for us. I do believe that, you know, our athletic department truly believes in, you know, building young men and women. And that's a big thing that I think we take, you know, not for granted, but I think I've really invested in. Look, I love my guys, but I wanted to get out of here in 4 years, whether that's a professional career, whether that's going into, you know, private, nonprofit, military, whatever that may be, is preparing them for that next step too. So I think, you know, the support we have from the department, you know, and kind of our themes of determination, commitment, respect, that stuff that carries with them for life. So I'm still here. You know what I mean? I graduated in 99. I've been in this area since, and there's still stuff I haven't done. And I said, I think that's what GW can offer you. There is something for everybody, and it's so much that, you know, to explore, that you wouldn't have to stay at home one day unless the weather was too bad. Like, but, so
Yeah.
yeah, location is key. I think the opportunities for the education, the numerous stuff that GW can offer you, the internships, like we have everybody doing internships, which is another selling point for the school itself. Yeah, like I think I haven't moved, like I said, so I
Yeah.
can't, I mean, they can't get rid of me. I hope so. That's good.
Well, yeah, let's hope not, right? So, you know, you mentioned the just the internships there at the end. Oh, of course, my dog decides to go crazy. Sorry. Um, you mentioned the internships at the end, but how do the student athletes really balance the athletics and the academics in terms of what they need to do um, as a D1 soccer player in a high academic environment?
So I think that obviously there's a lot of resources that we have to support, from, you know, our academic support, working with this men's soccer team, you know what I mean, requiring certain things, the study hall and whatnot. So we hope that getting that time management piece down, you know what I mean, early when they come in as first years, you know what I mean, will set them up for success down the road. So that would be my first thing. In terms of the balance, I said, I think that comes back to the time management piece. Working again with our staff, with our academic support staff. And it's a challenge. I mean, some guys don't get it straight away. Some guys come in like they've been, you know, we had a first year who's like a senior. You know what I mean? It differs for everybody, and it happens at different phases for people. So I think for us is trying to give them the resources that they can be successful. But again, it's almost how they choose to use those resources really is going to impact how successful they are when they're here. So I'm certainly not saying it's easy. I don't think that, you know, oh, that class is an easy, there's no such thing as an easy A or an easy, you know, class. It's, you have to do the graft. And as athletes, you know, I think you should be more aware of how the hard work pays off at the end. So I think that's one of the challenges for the academic piece, I think, is just getting our guys on a routine, getting them to start, if they're not already, planning their week out, planning their day out, helping them when they're on the road. You know, if we are traveling, you know what I mean, maybe it's a study hall for an hour, 2 hours in the hotel, to make sure that kind of hopefully nothing's kind of falling through the cracks in terms of the academic piece. But what they do miss out on sometimes, I mean, you know, is, you know, we have classes that could be held at, you know, Congress. We have classes that are the Supreme Court. Now that's a unique, only at GW moment when you're able to take a biology class at the National Zoo. You know what I mean? Things like that. But overall, like I said, I think for our guys, just the planning, the daily planning to the weekly planning, to looking ahead, to getting ahead and reading, and encouraging them. I love my guys when do well in the classroom. I support that probably more than on the soccer field sometimes, because I know how hard work they put in, and I want to recognize that too. And I want to give them the clap. I want to give them the pat in the back, because they've earned the results, that they get. So,
Uh, that's
but
good
it's tough.
stuff.
It's a
Yeah.
challenge.
Well, let's talk a little bit more on the soccer side of things. And this is maybe more of a recruiting question, but still team related here. Do you have a roster size that you like to try to hit every year that you find is ideal?
Yeah, we've averaged. I want to say we average around 25. That probably, I think this year we had 27, maybe with 4 keepers. We've gone 25 with maybe 3 keepers. We've gone as high as 28. I think it's 28's good if you get hit with injuries. I think 28 becomes a challenge when you try to keep everybody happy. And I think one of the challenges is, as any team, and certainly for our college coaches, is as much as we have conversations with players about maybe the role that we anticipate them playing, the reality then when maybe, playing time, they don't get as much playing time as maybe they perceive they would have, that's a challenge. And to keep, the more players you have, the more players you got to keep happy. I think that's the first part of recruiting, is for the recruits to ask that question: what is my role? Where do you foresee me playing? Or my first year, my second. And I'm honest, and that's one thing I'll kind of hang my hat on. I'll tell you straight up. You know what I mean? I'm not going to BS you. I'm not going to kind of, go around to snowball you with answers. I'm going to tell you where I think you fit in. And I'll say, look, if you go to my schedule, if you go to my, results from last season, look at the classmen who played, I don't really care if you're a first year or a senior. If you're the best player for that position for that week against that team, you're going to play. So that's just my philosophy, but I think it's important to have those conversations with recruits, because you're coming from being, a lot of times, the star or one of them on a team playing every single minute, to then maybe come into Division 1 and being more of a role player their first year. That's difficult to deal with, not mentally, you know what I mean? You want, and as coaches, to try to keep those players in a good, positive place.
Yeah, for sure. Well, how would you describe your overall style of coaching and that of the staff?
Yeah, I think I would say again, I'm consistent. I think I try to be consistent with all my decisions, off the field stuff to on the field. I'm honest. I think sometimes honesty, you know what I mean, is a lot harder to take, because again, it goes back to, building our young men here to have those hard conversations, and difficult conversations, and encouraging them to do that. So I think I'm hard in terms of, I demand, the standards, and I hold guys accountable to that. And I think that's one of the, I think when I first took over, I think I was like, I'm brand new. It was like ABC, right? Accountability, bravery, and commitment. Those are my 3 words. I'm brand new. Accountability, right? I was like, you hold guys accountable to the standards that you set, nobody drops below, the B part was brave, right? Bravery was like, look, you have to be able to make brave decisions on the field. We always say, yeah, you got to be brave, put your head in where it hurts, you know what I mean? Yeah, I get that. It's off the field, are you brave enough to, everybody's going out there, whether it's curfew or party, you shouldn't be there. Are you the guy who's brave enough to not go? Or are you the guy who's brave enough to tell your teammates, look, this isn't a good idea, we shouldn't go? So it's not just on the field. And then obviously commitment, is a pretty much no-brainer. It's committing to everything that we do as a program. So there's certain standards, like I said, I think that I would say, I say honest, people say hard as a coach. I think, you know what I mean? I think
Yeah.
this kind of balance, I think people need to hear the truth to improve. But then, like I said, the accountability is a big part of my coaching kind of philosophy in terms of how we run the overall program. On the sidelines, depends how we're doing and who we're playing in terms of how calm and how loud that can be. You know what I mean? I think that's just emotion. I don't show a lot of emotion sometimes around. I try to keep fairly, I think just like a player should, right? We don't want to always be in like a red zone. You got to come back down and kind of find that the green zone where you can think clearly to make decisions. Same with me as a coach, but there's certain times where our emotions always get the better of us. So
Yeah, I hear you. Well, hey, you've been super generous with your time. I leave you with one last question, and that's what didn't we talk about? What else do you want folks to know, whether it's about the college recruiting process or GW, DC, or anything else? I leave you with the last word, Coach.
I think my advice is to do your due diligence. We do ours on our players, you know what I mean, from teams, from academics to social media to, talking to opposition coaches, talking to high school opposition coaches, not just the people you work in. So I think, for players out there, it's doing their homework, doing the due diligence, having, when you go from 10 to 3 to 2, getting on campus, doing as much research as you possibly can, because the decision you make, you hope is going to be that decision for the next 4 years. And you want to make sure that you've covered every base before you go into that. I tell families I work with, look, I'm going to give you all the answers you need to make the best educated decision for you and your family. If I forget anything, I'll ask, but I think that's the same for the players. I think they have to do the research, make sure you know every single thing, have those difficult conversations or hard conversations in terms of with the coaching staff where you fit in. But think about, look, this is I want to go to a place for the next 4 years. That's what you got to be looking at. Soccer, the academics, the financial piece works, the environment, kind of the social area works. Those 4 areas, you might not be able to check every box perfectly, but if you can do that, you'll find a home and somewhere you're going to be in a good space for the next 4 years of the adventure.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, Coach, really appreciate the time. Great seeing you face to face. It's been too long.
It has.
So hopefully if you get to any recruiting events down here in Bradenton, give me a shout. We'll get together in person. And I think I'll be up in DC here in March. So we'll see if you got any spring stuff going on.
Sounds good. Thanks for
All
having
right.
me.
Yep.
Thank you.
Thanks. Take care. Bye.
Bye.